Upsetting Georgia is 100% a possibility and a real reality for Clemson. But one key to that upset is the dirt raid has to be successful.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Locked On Clemson podcast. My name is John Bivens. I am your host for this show. You can keep up with us over on X at I am John Bivens. We are a credentialed media member for Clemson, where we're down there for baseball, basketball, and football. Thanks so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast at and over on YouTube. Part of Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. After you listen to this podcast, make sure you go check out one of the other 200 plus shows with the Locked On Podcast Network. Here on Locked On Clemson, though, you're getting three things. You're getting all sports, all passion, all of the time, where we're bringing you everything you need to know regarding Clemson sports. Today, we've got a great show. We're going to be talking about what are the keys to this upset? We can beat Georgia. We 100% can do it. What are the keys? Well, the keys are three things: the dirt raid, Jake Briningstool, and ball security. We are grateful for all of our sponsors that make this show possible. We can't wait. If you want to see a full list of those sponsors, make sure you check that out in the episode notes. The first key number one to upsetting Georgia is we have to have a successful dirt raid. Our running game has to be strong. If you don't know what that term dirt raid is, here's basically what it is. When Dabo Swinney hired Garrett Riley as our offensive coordinator, he brought him in and he told him, Dabo's like, look, I know you ran an air raid at your last school. I know that's what you did, and you were successful with that air raid being they threw the ball all over the place, hardly any running game. He said, I know that was successful for you. I don't want that here. Clemson is not a school that we have to have the dirt, or we don't have to have the air raid. We're not going to be a team that throws the ball nonstop. Clemson's known for great running backs, C.J. Spiller, Wayne Gollum. We're known for great running backs, right? So we're going to keep that up. We're going to keep that up, and so I don't want the air raid. And so Garrett Riley came back, and he's like, all right, deal. We'll do the dirt raid. That was like, I like that. And so the dirt raid is basically they're going to run the ball so well that they'll be able to throw it wherever they want. That's the key behind Clemson's offense. That's the term that Dabo and Garrett Riley has coined as Clemson's offense, the dirt raid. Talking about running the ball successfully, getting behind the line, getting through the holes, running backs, getting yards, being able to allow you to open up to make the complete passes. That is the key for this Georgia upset. If we want to beat Georgia, who is no doubt the most talented team in all of college football, if we want to beat them, if we want to upset them, we have got to have a successful dirt raid. We've got to be able to run the ball. And honestly, I think this is going to be I think that's a possibility for us. Last year, we had a tandem running back system. We had Will Shipley and Phil Maffa. Will Shipley was drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles. He actually scored his first touchdown today in the preseason with the Eagles against the Ravens. But Phil Maffa was RB2. In 13 games last year that he played in, he only started 5, and the majority of those was due to injury. Will Shipley was RB1. But even as RB2, Phil Maffa still put up almost 1,000 yards. He had 965 yards last year as RB2. Now, with an improved offensive line, because we brought in Coach Matt Luke, who's going to get this, he's already increased this offensive line. So last year, offensive line struggled a little bit. So we have an improved offensive line with great leaders, with an improved offensive line and an offensive coordinator or an offensive line coach that has very, very proven to be successful at this level. And we have our RB1 coming in that put up almost 1,000 yards as an RB2 last year. Plus, not to mention that he also had 13 touchdowns. With that being the case, our run game, there's a very real reality where this run team is successful. where this run team is a very successful team. I think we're going to have that. Not only do you have Phil Maffa, though, you have some great backups. You got David Eazy-E, who's got incredible speed. You've got Jay Haynes, which will probably be the RB2, who we talked about in a previous episode. He's going to be amazing. He's got he can catch the ball really well. He's got crazy open field speed. He can get out. He's shifty. He can break a couple tackles. Last year, we saw a couple gun formations with Philip Maffa on one side, Will Shipley on the other, and that had such great potential, but we didn't utilize it as well. This year, if we have Phil Maffa and Jay Haynes in the backfield and we truly utilize that, how we need to utilize it, game over. That is a dangerous field. And I'm telling you, if we want to beat Georgia, we have to have a successful dirt raid. Because here's the deal, too. Georgia's defense is incredible. You look at their offensive line, which is pretty much the starting offensive line for Philadelphia Eagles. But if you look at their offensive line, you see talent across the board, or their defensive line, excuse me. You see talent across the board. They have a good defensive line, but when it comes to the rushing game, last year specifically, their rushing game was all over the board. I mean, they weren't consistent at all. There were some games that they had the best rushing defense in the whole country. There was a couple games they had less than 60 yards. I think one game they prevented less than 20. And that was against South Carolina, against Vanderbilt. Both of them are sub 60. I think there's a couple more. There was also a couple games where they gave up a bunch of rushing yards. I mean, they gave 2 games last year where they gave up over 200 rushing yards. That was the Georgia Tech and then the Auburn. So you're talking about a defense that is very talented, right? A lot of talent. Nobody's arguing the amount of talent on this Georgia team, but they're inconsistent stopping the run. So if we can come out, if we can push that dirt raid, allow the line to hold their spots, allow Phil Maffa to break through and be the talented RB1 that he should be, the one that was snubbed from the All-ACC team, if he can come through and truly do what only Phil Maffa can do and break through those lines, get first downs, break through for a couple long runs, have a couple 20-plus yards, Jay Haynes come in, give him a little bit of relief, being able to get some yards. If our dirt raid can be successful, our ground game can be successful, it'll open up our pass game. And if there was one area for concern in Georgia's football team last year on defense, it was they gave up some big plays. There was a couple times, honestly, it was multiple times each game that they should have gave up, if they didn't, a very long play, either a long pass, a rush broke free, some kind of explosive big play. Georgia was bad for having those or allowing those. If we can run this game, if we can get this dirt raid going, if we can get this dirt raid successful, then what does the dirt raid do? It's rush game that's successful, that then leads to passing being successful. So it's like a cycle. Rush is successful. You rush so many times. You run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, that they do have no other choice but to load the box. And then as soon as they load the box, as soon as they pull their safeties in to help the run, you have so much speed on the outside. You got Tyler Brown, who is quick. You got Bryant Wesco, who is quick. You got TJ Moore, who can move. You've got Adam Randall, who is shifty. You've got these wide receivers that can get past the corners. They can easily beat one-on-one man coverage. So you do that. You run the ball, you have these successful moments, and what is it going to do? It's going to create an opportunity for you to open up the games for explosive plays. If we want to defeat Georgia, if there is, which we do, if Clemson is going to fulfill this upset, right now they're a 14-point upset, which is a larger upset than Clemson was a favorite over Duke at the beginning of last season, by the way. But a 14-point upset, if we want to complete that, key number one, goal number one, mark it in your books, focus this down. We have got to live on the dirt raid. That's got to be our offensive play. Dabo and Garrett Riley, the term they coined a couple years ago, before last season, has got to come true this season, has got to come true opening day, August 31st against Georgia in Atlanta. We're going to be at that game. It's going to be exciting. But key number one, we're going to talk about 3 keys today, but key number one, dirt raid has to be successful. If Phil Maffa can put up over 100 yards, which easily is obtainable, if he can put up over 100, and then Cade and Jay Haynes and a couple Easy E, they can help combine for another 50. I mean, if we're putting up 150 yards on the ground, I don't see a way where we're losing this game, unless just stupid mistakes. But if our dirt raid is successful, this team will pull off the upset. Key one to the upset is the dirt raid has to be successful. Key number 2 for the upset, though, very different. Key number 2 is a player, and that player is Jake Briningstool.
This episode of Locked On Clemson is brought to you by FanDuel. Guess what, guys? I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. Whew, man, FanDuel has got you covered. FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is Open the app, dream up some bets anytime I'm in the mood. I'm telling you guys, it's at your leisure. You can be laying on the couch, twinkling your little toes, and you say, you know what? I want to drop a bet in this bad boy right now. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. Yes, every single day. That's right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel is the official sportsbook betting partner of Major League Baseball.
Key number 2 for Clemson to pull off this upset has got to be Jake Briningstool having a great game. Thanks so much for making Clemson your first listen every day. We are grateful for you all. But after you listen to this, go make sure your second listen is the Locked On College Football podcast. Spencer McCaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron with discussions on the upcoming season and the ever-changing atmosphere and landscape of college athletics. That includes conference realignment and the transfer portal and NIL and new college football expanded playoffs and so much more. Locked On College Football is available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Clemson can pull off this upset. Clemson can 100% pull off this upset against Georgia. It's not this game that's unwinnable. It's not this game that's unbeatable. If you're a fan, which I'm guessing you are listening to this show, so many fans are like, have this negative aspect where we've already lost. They've already chalked up 0-1 to start the season. No. If you think Dabo's doing that, you're out of your mind. Completely out of your mind. We can win this game. And it all comes down for, we talked about key 1 dirt raid. Key 2 is Jake Briningstool. Jake Briningstool is our tight end. If you don't know him, he is an amazing player. He's honestly turned into one of Cade Klubnik's closest, most consistent targets. He's a senior this year out of Brentwood, Tennessee, 6'6", 230 pounds. He's been at Clemson all 3 years so far. Didn't put up a lot of stats freshman year, only had 8 games played, 3 receptions for 67 yards. Sophomore year, he had 14 games, started one of them, 25 receptions for 285 yards, put up 4 touchdowns. So had a good year. And then last year was really, his stats didn't blow up the waters, but he really felt like it was his coming out party. He had 13 games, 12 of those he started, 50 receptions for almost 500 yards, 498 with 5 touchdowns. So he's averaging a touchdown every 10 receptions and 10 yards per reception. That's good stuff. I mean, you like a little bit more receptions. You like those number increased, but that's good stuff. If Clemson's going to win this game, Jake Briningstool has to have an amazing game. And here's why. Jake Briningstool, like we talked about, is a reliable target for Cade Klubnik. Cade is coming out of a very rough year. Everyone knows that. That's not some kind of surprise. He's coming out of a tough year. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. But he came out of a hard year. He wasn't the potential didn't live through. I mean, he's a 5-star recruit, the best quarterback in his class. I think he was he was a very high recruit when he came into Clemson. Freshman year, he only started 1 game, played in 2, or really just played in 2 games. He had a couple more appearances. But then sophomore year was his first year as a starter, and he struggled. He overthrew some passes, had some dumb turnovers. But one thing he was great at is he was great at finding Jake Briningstool. It felt like that was his most consistent target. I mean, he didn't get the most catches. He didn't get the most looks. But it felt like if they needed 5 yards, if they needed 10 yards, if they needed a short first down, Jake Briningstool was one of the guys that Cade Klubnik looked at every single play. And so in order for Cade to have confidence, Jake Briningstool's got to be on his A game. Because if Jake Briningstool opens up his game, you got the dirt raid going. You got the ground game going. We're running the ball. We're making clear reads. Phil Moffa's putting up yards. We're opening up the pass game a little bit more. Cade needs confidence. Build that confidence early with having an easy receiver like Jake Briningstool at the tight end role out there for completions. Let him be there for short passes. Let him be there for little out routes. Let him be for little tight end curls. We've even last year ran a couple tight end option plays where it was our RPO, but his only option was for passing the ball was Jake Briningstool. And those led to good success. I'll be honest, Cade Klubnik is one of the best in the nation when it comes to those little mid-range, right in the middle, coming off a slant where you got to get it over the linebackers but in front of the safeties. Cade excels in that. And one of the best positions to do that to is the tight end position. We want to upset Georgia. We want to win this game. What do we have to do? We have to make sure we're running the ball, and then we've got to make sure Jake Briningstool is on making plays. He's there as consistent receiver. He's so much of a receiver that there's always someone guarding him. Someone's assignment has got to be Jake Briningstool, because like we talked about, Georgia suffered last year. One of the only few things that you can talk about Georgia and what they can do better, one of the few areas you could talk about is the big plays, right? Is the big plays where explosive long passes, a screen pass that goes for 60 yards, a rush that breaks through, or the deep ball. They opened up some deep balls last year. If we can get the dirt rate going, and then we can get Jake Briningstool catching the short passes, that opens up those quick receivers on the outside to go far. But I don't want to act like Jake Briningstool can't go far. He made some amazing catches last year, especially in that Miami game. That Miami game, he set so many career records. His receptions that game, that was late October last year. He had 126 receiving yards. He had 2 receiving touchdowns. He had 50-yard reception in that Miami game. That 50-yard reception was crazy. I remember he went out and it looked like that Cade was in trouble, threw it up to him, lobbed it open. He caught it to him, made a great catch. It wasn't a great throw, but he made a great catch and opened it up. Jake Briningstool has the potential to be an excellent blocker. That's a part we haven't talked about, but to be able to go out, make the short passes, allow Cade to have a safe receiver, a safe option where he knows if option read one isn't open, you give it right to Jake Briningstool for a great catch, pick up 5, 10, 15 yards. He's there every time. If you do that and you allow that to be there, you allow the short passes to be there, Jake Briningstool has the game that we know he can have, has a repeat of Miami from last year, has the potential to be that receiver that Cade leans on. If that's the case, Georgia better watch out, because if rushing the ball works and then Jake Briningstool makes his potentials where he's catching the balls, where he's making the successful plays, he's catching the short passes, he's opening the field, it spreads out the defense. Now the defense has to guard the run. They have to guard the tight ends. There's only 11 defensive players on the field. They can't guard all of them. Focused in, then it opens up those freshman receivers, TJ Moore, Bryant Wesco, sophomore Tyler Brown, Adam Randall, a little senior. It opens up the field for them to make the plays that they can. If we're coming out of the gate and just hoping these receivers make the plays all game long with no help from the tight end, no help from the rushing game, Georgia's defense is too good for that. They'll guard that. They'll blow that up. That won't be there. We've got to have some other people coming in, allowing the situation where rushing the ball is working, where passing the ball is working, and then it'll open up everything else. Got to be able to have a successful dirt raid. But the second key to this upset is Jake Briningstool having a great game. And that game, like we've talked about a lot, is there in the passing area, but he's got to be blocking. There's a couple of games last year where he missed assignments in a blocking route and a rush got blown up in the backfield, or Cade had a huge hit on him. There's a couple situations where he was supposed to block and he missed his assignment, or he just bounced off and the guy just completely beat him. That can't happen either. Jake Briningstool's got to show up. If Jake Briningstool comes out, has an excellent game, Clemson's upsetting Georgia, and I don't think there's a potential it's not a close one either. So it's exciting to see. We can't wait. Key 1 is the dirt raid. Key 2 is Jake Briningstool. The third key to this upset has to be ball security. MLB is in full swing, and very little is better than game day at Clemson University, but MLB games are right up there with them. I love going to different ballparks and feeling the vibe, feeling the energy of the stadium. My favorite place for tickets is by far the Gametime app. Gametime is an authorized ticket seller for all MLB games, and they're the easiest place to go for all your ticket needs. Whether it's in advance or it's the day of, prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guaranteed, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Right now, I don't know who you're a fan of. I'm a Padre fan. We are making a run. We're like 3 games out of playing the Dodgers, and I've told myself I'm going to go to a Padres game before the end of this season. I've got to go see the energy. I've got to see the hype that's going on. I know where I'm going for those tickets, and it's Gametime. Some of my favorite things about Gametime app are I love the fact you get 60% off when you're buying last-minute tickets. I love you get almost every seat before you buy gets a panoramic view, so you know exactly what to expect. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app now today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Welcome back to the Locked On Clemson podcast. The third and final key for this upset, for Clemson to upset Georgia, is we have got to have ball security. We have got to take care of the ball. There's no choice about it. There isn't an option. If Clemson wants to win this game, if Clemson wants to win this situation, if they want to come through and they want to truly make plays and be successful in this, they've got to take care of the ball. There's no choice about it. Like we talked about a little earlier, Cade struggled last year. Cade at the beginning of last year made some pretty big mistakes when it came down to that Duke game. We were going into opening game last year. We were playing at Duke, but we still were an 11.5 point favorite, 11.5 points favorite to beat Duke. We came out and we did not play well. Our offense was really good. Our defense was really good. Our defense only gave up 6 points in the first half. Both were field goals. Clemson scored in the first half. We went at halftime up by 1. Second half, we just came out and our defense did everything they could, but our offense struggled. And the reason why was ball security. Cade Klubnik came out, he threw an ugly interception, but not only that, he also fumbled the ball. He fumbled the ball on a couple handoffs down in the red zone, and that was just the beginning of the season. We lost that game because Cade Klubnik made dumb mistakes, because Phil Maffa fumbled the ball once, because Will Shipley fumbled the ball, because Cade threw the pick. We lost that game because our offense could not hold on to it. We had long drives. We had successful drives. We moved the ball. We got in the red zone a bunch. We had 3 or 4 empty red zone trips because of turnovers. That can't happen. If we want to win this game against Georgia, they don't need help. Look, we already said it. Georgia is the most talented team in the nation right now. They're number 1 for a reason. They're going to be successful this year. If we want to beat them, we can't help them out. Cade, like we said, he had a rough year last year. Overall, he threw 9 interceptions. He had 10 fumbles, and out of those 10 fumbles, 5 of them he lost. Georgia does not need any help on the field. He's got to be better than that. We can't have interceptions. We can't have any lost fumbles. We can't have any fumbles, even if we return them and just lost 5 yards for free. You can't be doing that. We've got to hold on to the ball. When it comes down to Georgia's defense, they're not the best. Last year, they weren't the best at providing or forcing turnovers or anything like that. They actually had they had an average of 1.2 turnovers per game. They averaged 1 interception a game, 0.2 fumbles recovered per game. So it's not like they're a team that's going to make you force. Like, they'll give you maybe 1 turnover a game, but they're not going to be a team that comes out and forces you getting 2 or 3 a game. Clemson last year led the league, just for a fun fact. Our defense led the country last year in forced turnovers per game. We forced 2.3 turnovers per game last year, leading the nation. Georgia had 1.2. So ball security has to be there. We've got to take care of the ball. There can't be these mistakes. There can't be these open field runs. There can't be these interceptions that Cade throws because he doesn't know the route or because he just overthrows them by 20 yards. That can't happen. Georgia is too talented, and Georgia's the kind of team, they're dogs, right? Get it? Georgia Bulldogs, do you get it? Georgia is a team of dogs. If you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. They're going to grab the bone. They're going to get it. Use whatever metaphor you want. Insert punny metaphor here. Georgia is a team that knows how to play. They're going to take advantage of every single thing you give them. Clemson doesn't have to play a perfect game in order to win this, but they've got to be really close. I'm going to go ahead and predict this now. If we have more than 1 turnover against Georgia, we don't win. I think that's it. I think 1 turnover is the max. 1 turnover would make it hard. We've got to play almost perfect against Georgia if we want to win. It don't matter if the dirt rate is all over the field. If we're running the ball like crazy, open in the field, have 200 rush yards, but every time Cade throws it, he throws 3 interceptions, you're not going to win that. You've got to be able to capitalize. You've got to take care of the ball in the end zone or in the red zone. You've got to be able to make complete passes. You can't be giving free possessions away with fumbles here and interceptions there. You can't be doing that. We have got to have ball security. I'm going to go ahead and say this. This feels like the kind of game that nerves are going to be all over the place. And one thing, if you're a Clemson fan, you know of our punt fumbles. Throughout history, you can name a couple that are just massive, go to return the punt, and a fumble drops. That's just something that Clemson, we struggled with that a couple years ago pretty bad. That can't happen. And it feels like this might be a game where that would happen because of the energy, because of the pressure, because of the nerves. That can't happen. Ball security. I know that sounds so cliche. Ball security is like, oh, yeah, you can't give the ball away. I mean, you can't give it away twice. You can't have a lost fumble and an interception. In order for Clemson to win this game, in order for the upset to be real, in order for the upset to happen, Clemson has got to take care of the ball. Cade Klubnik has to make the right reads. Cade Klubnik can't throw the ball away. He can't make the dumb passes. He can't let every pass he throws be a deflection or an interception. He's got to make smart plays, get the ball out fast, not try to play hero ball. He doesn't need to try to force balls in tight areas that don't need to be. Hit the open receivers. Hit option one. Hit the reads that you need. If not, run it or give it back to the safety route like Jake Briningstool in a little curl, or the running backs drifting over to outside to the left. Do whatever you need. Don't force it. If Cade comes out trying to play hero ball and forces passes everywhere, we're going to be in trouble. In order for us to win this game, ball security has to be prime. Georgia is a favored team. They're favored by 14 points. It's not an impossible game. This game is not unwinnable. The keys to victory for Clemson, the keys to the upset, successful dirt raid, Jake Briningstool having a great game, and ball security. But with all that being said, that is going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Clemson podcast. Hey, thanks so much for giving us a listen today. We appreciate all of our everyday listeners. Now go check out that Locked On College Football show. It's a great show. Spencer's got some great information for you every single day over on that podcast. Hey, later in this next week, we are going to talk about more, diving into what this scrimmage. We have our first scrimmage tomorrow on Saturday. We're going to dive into what happens at that scrimmage and walk through some more keys as we're getting closer and closer to kickoff. Hey, we do want to let you know, if you wanted more of the show, if you want to dive deeper, if you want to be more connected to Locked On Clemson, make sure you join our Insider program. That is an amazing program where you get to have so many different benefits. That comes with one-on-one conversations with me. If you see a great thing happen, if you see something happen during the game, reach out and let's talk about it. If I see a recruit going to land, if I hear something in a media post-conference, I'm down there and Dabo says a comment, you don't have to wait for the film or for the next episode. I'll send out a text and be like, yo, Dabo Sweeney just said this about Jake Briningstool. I'll let you know all that stuff. So hit that subscribe so you can be deeper into the intel, get some media background, get some media coverage closer straight to your phone. It also comes with benefits like sending in questions. You can send in questions and comments that might make an appearance here on the podcast. You can also get bonus videos. Once the season starts, we're going to be putting out some bonus episodes like mailbag episodes, maybe some film studies, that kind of stuff, where only our Locked On Insider crew will be able to have access to all that material. So if you want to join the Locked On Clemson Insider program, text Clemson to 864-252-1907. You get 14 days for free just to try it out. But let us know your thoughts on today. We'd love to hear from you. Hit us up in that Insider program. Send us a message over on Twitter. Drop a comment on YouTube. Whatever it is, we'd love to hear feedback and thoughts on today's topic. If you haven't, make sure you're subscribed to this podcast. We are on the road to 1,000, and we are so close. We're like 30 away. Hit that subscribe button. Share it to a friend of yours. Let's grow this community. That's what it is. This show is a community of fans. Let's grow it. We're trying to get to 1,000. Help us get there. We'd be appreciative. But make sure you subscribe. That way, this can be your first listen every day here on Locked On Clemson Podcast. Make sure to check out other podcasts from the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. We can't wait to see you next week. But until then, keep that Tiger pride alive and roaring. And as always, go Tigers.